thank you for joining us here at Heritage Mississauga, and happy Canada Day. Today, we're giving a brief presentation on a little bit of a did you know, if you will, the story behind our nation's flag, the Canada flag. Really a true symbol of our land and the communities that we've all come to know, a symbol we've all come to know, flying high above our many buildings and houses. We're very proud of the symbol of the maple leaf and what it stands for. But we're going to give a kind of a brief look, if you will, a snapshot of the story of how a Canada flag came to be and the different symbols, the arms of Canada as well. Canada in its origins was part, from a armorial design perspective, was part of British North America. We'll talk about New France in a little bit, but the first kind of arms, official coats of arms for Canada were that from the British North America time period. And they were the royal coat of arms of Great Britain. We were a British colony, of course, and they were in use as the official emblem, if you will, of the federal body that would become the Canadas, Canada East and Canada West, the provinces of Canada, between 1837 and 1867. There was no official coat of arms following Confederation. Between 1867 and 1921, Canada did not adopt an official coat of arms. There was an unofficial arms for the Dominion of Canada between 1868 and somewhere up into the First World War, and this connected to kind of the early founders of Confederation, the four provinces, Ontario, Quebec, and Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick, that came together to create Canada. And as different provinces were added on, the coat of arms in the center simply grew and included other symbolism connected to those other provinces. But this was an evolving and an unofficial arms for the Dominion of Canada following Confederation beginning in 1868. The arms of Canada themselves, our official coat of arms, were granted in 1921. They're known officially as the Arms of Her Majesty Queen in Right of Canada. And the shield in the bottom corner here, that is known as the Ensign Armorial of the Dominion of Canada. That was a symbol that was used on a de facto national flag for a period of time, but has gradually evolved into other types of symbolism. So Canada does have an official coat of arms granted in 1921, had a few changes over time in a minor sense, but nonetheless we have an official coat of arms as of 1921. When it comes to flags, Canada, the shores of Canada, have been visited by many nations, and many of them have their own flags. The first flag believed to have been flown in Canada was by explorer John Cabot in Newfoundland around 1497, and he sailed under the flag of St. George's Cross of England, and that is believed to be the first flag flown in Canada, although there certainly may have been others before that, a little bit of an unknown. The flags that we probably recognize, particularly the bottom one, as the Union Jack, or the Royal Union flag. Its predecessor, the King George Standard, or what we know as the Loyalist flag, or the Loyalist Standard. The Loyalist Standard was a precursor to the Union Jack, and the Loyalist Standard between 1701 and 1801 reflected those of British connections here in North America. And Loyalists, following the American Revolution in the 1790s, brought that flag north with them to what would become Upper Canada, or Ontario. Ontario's motto, incidentally, loyal she began, loyal she remains, reflecting this time period of a new homeland for United Empire Loyalist refugees following the American Revolution. That is replaced in 1801 by the flag we recognize today as the Union Jack, flag of Great Britain and her dependencies. We were a colony, of course, of Great Britain, and so officially for generations, Canada flew under the Union Jack. There are other flags, of course, flags of other parts of Canada, some which are older than British North America, flags of New France, of Lower Canada, of Canada East and Quebec, all the same place, essentially speaking. And they flew under a number of different flags over time, some official, some unofficial. The fleur-de-lis is probably the most familiar, still the provincial flag of Quebec. Unofficial, the Blue Ensign after Confederation from 1868 to 1948, prior to being replaced by the fleur-de-lis. But certainly a number of flags that have flown in Quebec and the predecessors of Quebec, New France, Lower Canada, Canada East, and so on. So a rich history of different ways in which the communities have identified themselves. The fleur-de-lis being a prominent symbol throughout. There's also the Acadian flag. If you go down to New Brunswick today, you will find the Acadian flag flying, which is homage to France, together with a single star reflecting the Acadian tradition. You'll still see that flag today with down in the New Brunswick area, identifying to that particular heritage and the communities that are descended from Acadians. There was a short-lived moment in 1837 and 1838 to break away and to dissolve the Union, styling a self-styled republic in the spirit of what was happening in the United States. That never happened, but didn't stop somebody creative of coming up with a flag of their own. It's never certain if this flag actually was flown, but it seems to have been something that had been percolating around as an idea, with the two stars and liberty being prominent on the flag. The two stars representing the two halves of the provinces of Canada, Canada East and Canada West, Ontario and Quebec, which is the epicenters of the rebellions and the social discontent rising out of 1837 and 1838. Again, the flag was never adopted. The Red Ensign, getting into a flag that we will have some connection to in terms of things that we've seen on our landscape today. The original Red Ensign was the unofficial flag of Canada after 1868. The official flag was still the Union Jack. This flag was used throughout the country to identify federal buildings. A version of this flag was used during the First World War, and although never officially adopted in 1868, it continued in use until it was adopted with some modifications by as kind of an unofficial flag up until 1921, and then became the new Canadian flag, which I'll show you in a moment, after 1921. So there was no real standard design. You'll see, although the Union Jack and the red background were the key aspects, the coat of arms could change and did change quite a bit until it was officially confirmed in 1921. There's the what's considered de facto our first national flag, the Vimy Ridge Red Ensign. This flag was carried by the 5th Canadian Infantry Battalion at the Battle of Vimy Ridge in April of 1917 during the First World War, and it's considered by many as kind of our first national flag, even though it had not yet been officially adopted as such. And the Vimy flag does survive at the War Museum as a very strong remembrance of this desire to have a national symbol, something that was different than the Union Jack, kind of reflective of a country beginning to come of age. It wasn't until 1921 that the Red Ensign was officially adopted, and it served as the unofficial symbol of the country right up until 1945, when it was finally federally approved as the temporary national flag in 1945. We'll get into the temporary thing. The Red Ensign, as it's described, the Red Ensign with the shield of the coat of arms in the fly, to be referred to as the Canadian Red Ensign, may be flown from buildings owned or occupied by the Canadian federal government within or without Canada, and shall be appropriate to fly as a distinctive Canadian flag. The coat of arms again did change, most specifically from green maple leaves to red, but nonetheless this becomes the Red Ensign that we recognize right up until our own national flag is adopted. So really what comes about from Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson directive was to come up with a distinctive Canadian symbol. That was a flag that would readily identify as a Canadian identity. Or as I said, the quote here, distinctive and unmistakably Canadian flag. And the great flag debate, I wouldn't say raged. It carried on for many years, beginning there was overtures made in the 1920s to create a Canadian symbol, but really with a prominent focus in federal politics between 1946 and 1964, and it became very drawn out affair. There were hundreds of public submissions for flag ideas, and it's an amazing process to come out to the end result that they did, despite the length of time that it took them. The 1946 recommendation from the Flag Committee was this one, Red Ensign with the maple leaf prominently displayed. It was not approved, and so we muddled along with the traditional Red Ensign following 1946 as they tried to come up with a solution that would unite the country rather than divide it, to come up with a representation that could be reflective of something that was distinctly Canadian, but inclusive as well. And that was always the struggle, is to make sure it's a symbol that can be accepted across the board. So the Great Flag Debate resulted in a flood of concepts that came before the Flag Committee, and all different kinds of flag suggestions. Some of them are quite amazing to look at. And when you see a picture like this, the 1964 Flag Debate, the Flag Committee in Ottawa, just look at the background there. Small flags, little flags, hand drawn. Just amazing collection of things that they had to go through, and you can see there some of the flags that were being flown at the time are just things we wouldn't recognize, although they were distinctive, many of them with the maple leaf symbol. But it would be some time before they came to a consensus. Here's just an example of some of the rejected designs, and there's quite a few here, and some of them are quite striking. Others are a little bit on the odd side, if you will. Maybe that's rose-colored glasses of history looking back in time, but they were all inspiring to those who submitted them for one reason or another. Some of them are a little baffling, frankly, as to what they are depicting, but nonetheless, the rejected designs. We even had the Beatles on one of them as a design. I'm not sure how that was a Canadian symbol, but some of them are quite striking symbols. The one in the upper left here was a front runner for a period of time with the green leaf in the middle and the Union Jack and fleur-de-lis and the flies, and so it's just a fascinating example. White ensign with the red maple leaf, again, striking symbol. Canada geese stylized on it, and some of them we're not quite sure again what they were referring to, but nonetheless, these things became part of the conversation around having a national identity, a national symbol, if you will. And again, all some very professionally done, some not so much. Flag suggestions really came from all walks of life, and all quarters of the country. So literally hundreds of designs, and some of them, again, quite fascinating to look at and try to decipher what it is they were displaying. The maple leaf was a distinctive and historic Canadian symbol. I mean, we're not talking just the hockey team name as such, but our soldiers in the First World War fought under the cap badge that was a maple leaf in design. The Jean-Baptiste Society in Quebec, or New France, Lower Canada, Canada East, and Quebec, beginning in 1834, the Jean-Baptiste Society used a maple leaf as a symbol. It was chosen as a kind of a colonial symbol for Canada in the 1840s by British Home Office. Again, they became a military symbol associated with Canadian soldiers, even though they were serving under a flag that was distinctly British, and their uniforms were interchangeable with the British. That tiny little badge on their cap identified them as something different. It just is a symbol long entrenched with Canadian identity. Recognized symbol officially, the the colors red and white were chosen in 1870 as a general service medal by the Governor General. So that was, again, a distinctive Canadian symbol with the white in the middle and two red ends. The maple leaf has been worn by Canadian Olympic athletes since at least 1904. So again, distinctively Canadian symbol long before it was actually chosen to be as such officially. And in 1914, Major General Eugene Fiset recommended that a single red maple leaf be the national identity. And so you have these long tries to color and the symbol, but it had yet not been officially branded as the national flag symbol for the country itself. That would be some time. The flag committee narrowed its choice down to 3 finalists. This is in the early 1960s, and you have the C2C or the Pearson pennant, the 3 maple leaves together with the blue ends. That was considered a front runner at a time, particularly a favorite of Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson, and followed by what was known as the duality flag, and then simply the maple leaf. Those were the final 3 that were submitted to the federal government to choose behind. And it was the maple leaf that was ultimately selected, although if you look closely of the flag that's unveiled there by the flag committee, the maple leaf itself, the symbol in the middle, is not quite the exact same as we recognize today on our symbol. That would be modified slightly as it went through for royal assent from Queen Elizabeth. The flag that we recognize today, it was submitted by George Stanley of Kingston, who was inspired by the flag of the Royal Military College of Canada. That's the flag in the upper corner there. You can see the red and white motif. It was his submission that was submitted. Ultimately, it was altered slightly on December 15th of 1964 and officially proclaimed, recognized by Queen Elizabeth II as a national flag of Canada on January 28th of 1965. And the flag was unveiled on February 15th, 1965, what's known as Flag Day, when a small flagpole, a shorter flagpole at Parliament Buildings in Ottawa hoisted the first national flag, again, February 15th of 1965. And there is the royal assent that was given by Queen Elizabeth, recognizing the Canadian symbol that would become the Canada flag. And you can see that very distinctive symbol with the modified maple leaf in the middle as being something that we recognize readily today as a symbol of our land. The first flag itself, there's a picture of the first flag flown at Ottawa. The House of Commons again passed the resolution with the modified maple leaf on December 15th, 1964, and then proclaimed by Queen Elizabeth. And the flags were made at several different locations, and at random one was chosen to fly the flag at Ottawa for the unveiling ceremony, and that flag was then retired. It was supposed to make its way to the archives. It did not. It ended up in the personal possessions of the Speaker of the House of Commons, and many years later, that flag resurfaced. And when they were undertaking some conservation work, the maker's label was identified on the flag made at Canadian Textiles in Lakeview in Mississauga. The very first Canada flag flown and unveiled to the public in 1965 was made in Mississauga. So quite a neat story, if you will. And we'll have more on that with our Way Back Wednesday article series on the story of Canada's first flag. And for that, thank you very much. We wish you and yours a wonderful and safe Canada Day. Thank you for sharing a little bit of that time with us and wandering down the story of our national flag. So be well, and thank you.